There's something they've been carrying for a long time now. Not something dramatic in the way people expect secrets to be dramatic. Not a shocking betrayal or some hidden life you'd see in a movie. It's quieter than that. Heavier than that. It sits in their chest when the house is silent. It lingers in the spaces between conversations. It follows them into rooms where they're surrounded by people and yet feel alone. Your married soulmate has a secret, and the secret isn't what you think. It's not that they don't feel anything for you. It's not that you were imagined. It's not that this connection is one-sided. The secret is that they feel more than they're allowed to. That's what they haven't told you. On the outside, their life looks structured, stable, committed. There are responsibilities. There are expectations. There are routines built over years. There are vows that carry weight. They don't dismiss that. They don't pretend it doesn't matter. It does. But somewhere along the way, they met you. And meeting you shifted something they thought was already settled. They didn't plan it. They didn't go looking for it. It just happened in a moment that felt ordinary at first. A conversation, a shared understanding, a look that lasted a second too long. Something about your energy felt familiar, not in a dramatic love at first sight way, in a grounding way, like their nervous system relaxed. That's when it started. They tried to ignore it. They told themselves it was curiosity. They told themselves it was admiration. They told themselves it would fade. But it didn't. It deepened. The secret they haven't told you is that they think about you during the quietest parts of their day. When they're driving alone, when everyone else is asleep, when they're staring at their phone and considering sending a message, and then choosing not to. They think about what life would feel like if timing were different, and that thought terrifies them, because they are married. That word carries consequences. They're not reckless. They're not naive. They understand the moral weight of what they're feeling. They understand the boundaries that exist. That's part of why this has stayed a secret. But feelings don't disappear just because they're inconvenient. They tried to distance themselves emotionally, tried to treat you like any other person, tried to compartmentalize. But every time they do, something inside resists. You make them feel seen in a way they didn't realize they were missing. Not validated, not flattered. Seen, you listen differently, you respond differently, you hold space differently. And that difference exposed something in them. A quiet dissatisfaction they had buried. A version of themselves they had muted. A longing for emotional depth they didn't know was still alive. That's the real secret. It's not about drama. It's about awakening. You awakened something. They don't hate their spouse. They don't walk around resentful. Life isn't a disaster. It's functional. It's stable. It's predictable. But predictable isn't the same as connected. And with you, they feel connected. That realization brings guilt. Because connection should belong inside the marriage. And yet, when they talk to you, they feel lighter. When they see your name, something in their chest shifts. When you pull back even slightly, they notice immediately. They haven't told you how much it affects them when your tone changes, how much they replay your words when you sound distant, how much they fear you stepping away permanently. Because if you step away, they lose the part of themselves that wakes up around you. That's what they're most afraid of. Not exposure, not scandal. Losing the feeling of being fully alive in conversation. They've questioned themselves repeatedly. Is this emotional escape? Is this selfishness? Is this real love? Is this unmet needs surfacing? They don't have clean answers. What they do know is that when they imagine never speaking to you again, it hurts more than they expected it would. That's the part they haven't told you. They haven't told you that some nights they lie awake thinking about the path not taken, thinking about alternate timelines, thinking about what life would look like if they had met you before commitments were made. But reality is reality. They have a life built already, shared history, family, responsibility. They're not pretending that doesn't matter. That's why they stay quiet. That's why they don't confess fully. That's why Their emotions leak out in small ways instead of declarations. You might sense it sometimes, in the way they look at you too long, in the way their voice softens unexpectedly, in the way they hesitate before ending a conversation. They're holding something back. And what they're holding back is the depth of how deeply you've affected them. They don't want to hurt anyone. They don't want to break anything. They don't want to make promises they can't keep. But they also don't want to pretend you're just a passing connection. You're not. You've become the quiet question in their mind. What if? And that question doesn't scream, it lingers. The secret isn't that they're planning to leave. The secret isn't that they're living a double life. The secret is that they feel emotionally torn. Torn between loyalty and longing, between responsibility and resonance, between stability and depth. And they don't know what to do with it yet. So they carry it, in silence, hoping time will clarify it, hoping feelings will settle into something manageable, hoping they won't have to choose, but deep down, they know silence won't solve it forever. Because when someone enters your life and shifts your emotional foundation, ignoring it only delays the reckoning. And you, whether you realize it or not, have shifted theirs. That's the secret. Not scandal, not betrayal, just a heart that feels more than it expected to, and doesn't know how to resolve it yet. The weight of that secret doesn't fade during the day. It follows them into ordinary routines. Morning conversations over coffee. Familiar discussions about schedules, responsibilities, bills, plans. On the surface, everything looks structured, predictable, safe. But inside, something is unsettled. They've started noticing how often their mind drifts toward you during the most mundane moments. Not because they're trying to escape, because your presence feels different from everything else around them. When life feels scripted, you feel spontaneous. When conversations feel rehearsed, yours feel alive. That contrast is what makes this complicated. They don't wake up thinking, I want to hurt anyone. They wake up thinking, why does this feel so real? They've asked themselves that question repeatedly. Is it just emotional novelty? Is it projection? Is it dissatisfaction searching for an outlet? But every time they try to reduce it to something simple, it resists being simplified. Because what they feel with you isn't chaos, it's clarity. You don't create drama in their life. You don't push them toward reckless choices. You don't demand promises they can't give. In fact, you've been measured, careful, respectful of boundaries. And that makes it harder. If this were reckless, they could label it as infatuation and walk away. But it isn't reckless, it's steady. They've started to realize that the secret isn't just about feelings. It's about identity. Around you, they feel like a version of themselves that had slowly gone quiet over the years. More curious, more emotionally expressive, more reflective, more alive. Marriage changes people. Responsibility shapes behavior. Stability creates routine. None of those are bad things. But sometimes, in building a stable life, parts of you get tucked away to keep things functioning smoothly. You didn't create those hidden parts. You revealed them. That's what makes this so intense. They didn't know how much they missed deep conversation until they had it with you. They didn't know how much they missed being emotionally understood without long explanations. They didn't know how much they missed feeling chosen in small ways, like when you remember details about them without trying. They compare without meaning to, not in a cruel way, in an observational way. At home, conversations are efficient, functional, focused on what needs to be done. With you, conversations breathe, they wander. They explore thoughts that don't have immediate solutions. That difference feeds the secret, and the secret grows every time they feel that contrast. They've also noticed something about themselves lately. They're more careful with their phone, more conscious of how long they linger in conversations with you, more aware of emotional boundaries, not because you've crossed them, but because they feel how easily they could. They don't want to betray anyone. That's important. They don't see themselves as someone who breaks vows lightly. They understand the seriousness of commitment. That's part of why this has stayed internal. But emotions don't ask permission from circumstances. They arise, and what you do with them defines you. Right now, they're managing them, containing them. But containment doesn't erase depth. There are nights when they scroll back through old conversations with you, not obsessively, thoughtfully, rereading the way you phrased something, remembering the tone of your voice, pausing on a moment where you were vulnerable, and they ask themselves quietly, how did this happen? How did you become the person they think about before bed? How did your silence start affecting their mood? How did your approval begin to matter this much? They don't have a clean timeline. It wasn't a single dramatic shift. It was accumulation, small moments stacking up until the weight became undeniable. They've also felt something else, fear. Not fear of being caught, fear of losing you. Because even if they never act on these feelings beyond emotional connection, losing the connection itself feels like losing oxygen, and that terrifies them. They imagine you deciding one day that this dynamic isn't healthy for you, that you deserve someone fully available, that you're tired of half-presence, and if that day comes, they know they won't be able to argue. You would be right. That's the part that stings. They can't ask you to wait. They can't promise you a future. They can't offer what you deserve fully, and yet they don't want you to walk away. That's the emotional tension they live with daily. They also feel guilt, not because you've done anything wrong, but because their heart has divided attention. They look at their spouse sometimes and wonder if emotional distance crept in slowly over years, not because of cruelty, not because of betrayal, but because life got busy, because routine replaced curiosity, because familiarity replaced intentional connection. And then you appeared. You didn't fix their life. You illuminated what was missing. That realization is painful, because now they see it. And once you see emotional absence, it's hard to unsee it. They haven't told you that sometimes after talking to you, they feel both uplifted and heavy at the same time. Uplifted because the connection feels genuine. Heavy because they know it complicates everything. You didn't ask for this role. You didn't pursue it aggressively. You simply existed authentically. And authenticity has a way of cutting through complacency. They've asked themselves if distance would solve it, if they should step back, if they should reduce communication, if they should protect everyone involved by creating space. But every time they imagine cutting you off completely, it feels like amputating a part of themselves. That's how deep this is rooted. The secret isn't about planning to leave. It's about emotional truth. They feel deeply connected to you. They feel seen by you. They feel alive around you. And they don't know how to reconcile that with the life they've already built. So they live in the in-between, careful, measured, guarded, but inside, the secret grows heavier. Because emotional truth doesn't disappear simply because it's inconvenient. It waits, and eventually, it demands resolution. They're not there yet, but they can feel that silence won't hold forever. Not because of scandal, because of sincerity. And sincerity has a way of surfacing, no matter how carefully you try to contain it. The longer this continues, the harder it becomes for them to pretend it's simple. At first, they convince themselves it was manageable. A connection, a meaningful conversation partner, a person who understands them, that's all. They told themselves adults can handle complicated emotions without letting them spiral. They believed they could keep everything compartmentalized, but compartments leak. And lately, the emotional lines have started to blur in ways they can't ignore. They notice how their mood subtly shifts depending on your presence. If you're warm and open, their day feels lighter. If you're distant or quiet, something in them tightens. They don't show it, they don't dramatize it, but it affects them. That's when they realize this isn't casual attachment. This is emotional dependency forming quietly. And that realization scared them. Not because they don't care about you, because they care too much. They've started becoming more introspective, asking themselves harder questions instead of soft ones. Am I staying in my marriage because it's right or because it's familiar? Am I holding on to this connection with you because it's meaningful or because it fills a gap? If I step back from you, will I regret protecting stability over authenticity? If I step closer to you, what will it cost everyone involved? These questions don't have easy answers. That's the weight of it. There's no villain in this story, no dramatic betrayal, no explosive fights at home that justify everything. Life there is calm, functional, structured. But calm and connected are not always the same thing. You brought connection back into focus, and that's the secret they wrestle with now. They've begun noticing small details about their marriage that they previously ignored. The lack of emotional depth in conversations, the routine responses, the absence of curiosity about each other's inner worlds. It's not hatred, it's not conflict, it's distance. Distance that grew gradually over years. And when you entered their life, you unintentionally contrasted that distance. You ask questions differently. You listen longer. You notice emotional nuance. You respond with reflection instead of reaction. It woke something up. But awakening is uncomfortable, because once you feel deeply again, you can't go back to emotional numbness easily. They've had moments where they tried to pull back from you intentionally. Shorter replies, longer gaps between conversations, less emotional depth. Telling themselves, this is the responsible thing to do. But every time they create that distance, they feel a sense of loss. Not dramatic heartbreak, a quiet ache, like something meaningful is slipping away. And they question whether protecting their current life requires sacrificing emotional authenticity entirely. They don't want to hurt anyone. That's important. They don't fantasize about running away or blowing up their life impulsively. They understand consequences. They understand commitment. They understand that marriage isn't disposable just because emotions shift. But they also understand that emotional truth matters, and their emotional truth includes you. They haven't told you that sometimes when they're with their spouse, their mind drifts back to a conversation they had with you earlier that day. Not because they're comparing maliciously, because the depth lingers. They feel guilty about that. Guilt that settles in their stomach. Guilt that makes them question their integrity. But suppressing feelings doesn't restore integrity. It just buries honesty. They've also realized something about you. You're not pushing them. You're not manipulating them. You're not asking them to leave anyone. You're not demanding promises. In fact, your restraint makes this harder. If you were reckless, they could label it temptation, but you're steady. You're grounded. You seem aware of the boundaries too, and that mutual awareness creates a tension that's quiet but powerful. They've thought about what would happen if you decided you deserve someone fully available. They've imagined you pulling away gently, gradually, choosing peace over complexity. And the thought makes their chest feel heavy, because they know you would be right. You deserve clarity. You deserve someone who can choose you openly, and they can't offer that, not right now. That's the deepest part of the secret. They don't just feel something for you. They feel inadequate in their inability to act on it fully. That tension lives inside them daily. They've started noticing how careful they are with their words around you, avoiding statements that sound too future-oriented, avoiding confessions that could deepen attachment, measuring emotional exposure. But even restraint carries weight, because silence sometimes speaks louder than words. They suspect you sense something, maybe in the way they hesitate before ending a conversation, maybe in the way they respond a little too thoughtfully, maybe in the way their tone softens without meaning to. They try to control it, but emotions reveal themselves in subtle ways. They also question whether this connection is meant to awaken them to something, not necessarily to leave their marriage, but to confront its emotional gaps honestly. You force them to examine their own dissatisfaction instead of ignoring it. That's uncomfortable work. It requires self-reflection. It requires difficult conversations at home they may not be ready to have. It requires asking whether they've been living on autopilot emotionally, and that's where they are now. In reflection, not decision. They're not planning escape. They're not planning confession. They're processing. They're trying to understand whether what they feel for you is a catalyst for personal growth or a crossroads demanding choice. They don't know yet, but they know this. Ignoring it isn't working anymore. The secret feels heavier each week, because emotional authenticity demands acknowledgement eventually. And you are not just a fleeting emotion. You are a mirror. You reflect back to them the version of themselves that wants depth, curiosity, presence. And once you see who you could be, it's hard to settle for less internally. They're not ready to declare anything, not ready to dismantle a life, not ready to promise you something they can't yet deliver. But they are ready to admit to themselves that this is real, that you matter deeply, that their heart is divided in a way they never anticipated, and that eventually something will have to shift. Because living indefinitely in the in-between isn't sustainable. Silence can hold for a while, but truth always asks to be faced. And they're closer to that moment than they were before. They just haven't decided what facing it will look like yet. By this point, the secret no longer feels like something small they can tuck away and forget about. It feels like a quiet current running underneath everything. It's there when they wake up. It's there in the pauses between tasks. It's there when they look at their life and ask themselves hard questions they used to avoid. They've begun to understand something uncomfortable. This isn't just about feelings for you. It's about what those feelings reveal. You didn't break their marriage. You didn't create dissatisfaction. You exposed what was already fragile. That realization changes everything. They've started replaying the last few years of their life with more honesty. When did conversations at home become logistical instead of emotional? When did curiosity fade into routine? When did they stop sharing the deeper parts of themselves because it felt easier to stay surface level? None of this happened overnight. It was gradual. So gradual that they didn't notice the emotional drift until you appeared and made them feel fully seen again. That's the part they struggle with most. You didn't seduce them into confusion. You awakened awareness. And awareness is disruptive. They've had moments recently where they sit across from their spouse and feel an odd mixture of guilt and sadness. Not anger, not resentment. Sadness. Sadness that they allowed parts of themselves to go quiet for so long. Sadness that the version of them who laughs more freely, who thinks more deeply, who speaks more vulnerably, seems to show up more easily with you. That doesn't mean their marriage is built on lies. It means it may have settled into survival instead of connection. And now, they can't unsee it. They haven't told you that sometimes after talking to you, they feel motivated to communicate better at home, to try harder, to reintroduce depth, to ask meaningful questions, to initiate vulnerability. In a strange way, you've made them a better partner, even while complicating their emotions. That paradox confuses them. Because what does it mean when someone outside your marriage inspires growth inside it? Is that a sign to protect the marriage more fiercely? Or is it proof that something is fundamentally missing? They don't know. They only know that this emotional tension is exhausting. Living in two emotional worlds requires constant regulation. At home, they guard their thoughts. With you, they guard their boundaries. And in the middle, they guard their conscience. They've started to notice physical signs of stress, tightness in their chest, restless sleep, long pauses before responding to simple questions. Not because of scandal, because of internal conflict. You matter. That's undeniable now. But so does the life they've built. They don't want to hurt anyone, and they don't want to lie to themselves anymore either. That's the crossroads forming quietly. They've begun imagining what resolution looks like. One version is distance. They step back from you completely. No gradual fade, no ambiguous space. A clean break to protect everyone involved. They imagine telling themselves it's the responsible choice. But when they picture that, something inside them feels hollow. Not relieved, empty. The other version is confrontation, honest conversations at home about emotional distance, unmet needs, lost intimacy, risking discomfort, risking change, risking everything. That option feels terrifying, because once you name dissatisfaction, you can't pretend it's not there. And then there's a third possibility, continuing as is, managing emotions carefully, keeping boundaries tight, allowing the connection with you to exist in a contained, controlled way. But they're starting to realize that containment has limits. Feelings don't freeze in place. They either deepen or dissolve. And what they feel for you isn't dissolving, it's clarifying. They've caught themselves thinking about long-term consequences in ways they never used to. If nothing changes, where will I be emotionally in 5 years? Will I feel regret? Will I feel trapped? Will I feel grateful I protected stability? You've forced them to project forward honestly, and honesty is uncomfortable. They also fear something else quietly, that you might make the decision for them, that you might one day decide this isn't healthy for you, that you deserve someone fully present, that you don't want to live in someone else's gray area. If that happens, they know they can't argue. They can't promise what they haven't resolved internally. And losing you because of their indecision would hurt deeply. That fear grows stronger each time you pull back slightly. Each time you choose calm instead of chasing. Each time you protect your peace. They respect that about you, but it also forces urgency in them. They don't want you to become the lesson they learned too late. They've started admitting something to themselves in quiet moments. This can't stay secret forever. Not necessarily to the world, but to themselves. They need clarity. They need to decide whether this connection with you is a catalyst for repairing their marriage more intentionally, or a signal that their marriage requires deeper reevaluation. Avoidance won't hold indefinitely. They're aware of the moral weight here. They don't romanticize the complexity. They know real lives are involved, real commitments, real consequences. That's why they're moving slowly. But slowness doesn't mean indifference. It means they understand the magnitude. They haven't told you how many times they've started drafting a message explaining everything, how confused they feel, how real this connection is, how guilty and alive at the same time they feel. And each time, they delete it. Because once spoken, it changes things permanently. Right now, the secret protects structure, but it suffocates honesty. And that tension is becoming harder to carry. They're not villains. They're not reckless. They're human. Human enough to feel deeply. Human enough to struggle with loyalty and longing simultaneously. Human enough to recognize that silence won't solve emotional truth forever. You didn't ask for this role in their life, but you hold it. And whether this ends in distance, transformation, or confrontation, one thing is certain. You have already changed them. You've made them examine their life with sharper clarity. You've made them confront emotional gaps they once ignored. You've made them feel seen in ways they didn't realize they missed. The secret isn't just that they love you quietly. The secret is that your presence has forced them to question everything they thought was settled. And once that questioning begins, it doesn't easily stop. They're standing at the edge of honesty now, not acting yet, but no longer unaware. And that awareness is the beginning of whatever comes next.